Great.
Okay. So hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name's Teresa and I volunteer with the MHS as a part of the social media and community engagement team. Today we're joined by Joban Dhanoa and she's going to speak to us a little bit about her counseling practice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so just to start off, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your education background?
For sure. So as Teresa mentioned, my name is Joban. I am a social worker by education. So I have a master's of social work, and I'm also a registered social worker with the BC College of Social Workers. I think that's what the acronym stands for. I also have a master's in biomedical science with a research focus on biochemical toxicology. So I like to pull from many disciplines in my clinical work. Yeah, I've been working in this field for about 4 or 5 years now. Feel super passionate about social justice, harm reduction, and really just trying to create more equitable and accessible spaces for people to find their healing.
Yeah, that's great. That's so important, and I love that you're passionate about what you do. That's always like the best part. Um, so could you just tell us a little bit more about exactly what services you offer through Marigold Counselling?
Yeah, so Marigold Counseling Services is my private practice. The primary service that I offer is individual counseling. So that's for anybody. I do age 16 all the way up until like 70 or 80. Not that I've had anyone that old wanting to access my services recently, just because everything is digital right now. But yeah, my primary service is individual counseling, kind of addressing whatever a client needs. I focus on trauma-informed practice, taking a harm reduction lens, and really just trying to focus on being a partner in the client's healing. I also do offer couples counseling and family counseling on a case-by-case basis, just depending on what the specific situations are. And I do also do some workshop facilitation work if organizations are looking for like inclusivity workshops and stuff like that.
That's great. Sounds like you cover quite a bit.
Yeah, very busy.
Yeah. So tying into what you said about how it's, with the digital world that we're kind of living in right now, and especially as of the pandemic, kind of what changes have you found that you've had to make with the pandemic?
Yeah, so I actually started my private practice during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
So all of the changes were from what I had initially envisioned my private practice to be into what it is now. So since starting, all of my sessions have been remote. I just kind of made the executive decision that it's really hard to gauge when the right time to stop doing in-person sessions is, and it's just a very challenging space to navigate. So I figured until we get clear public health orders that everybody is safe, for the safety of myself and for my clients, just because we all have our own lives and everything. I do everything remotely. This is my Zoom background for my sessions. But that also presents quite a few challenges when trying to do like somatic trauma therapy work and getting a client zoned in and ready to talk about whatever their stuff is that they want to talk about in counseling, especially because, there's a lot of sensory cues when you're walking into a therapist's office of like, okay, now it's time to talk about my feelings and this is a safe space. Whereas now it's like, oh, press the end meeting button and now I'm just in my house and what do I do now? So I do spend a lot of intentional time talking to my clients when we first start working together around kind of building a routine of like, okay, how do we settle ourselves into a session? And what does it look like for us to exit out of the space of being in a session? And that's been an interesting learning curve through the pandemic.
Yeah, I bet. So what would you suggest to someone who is maybe new to counseling and not really sure where to start and how to find a service that would work for them?
So I think, shop around is like the biggest piece of advice I can give anyone. Different counselors have different approaches, and it's okay if a counselor seems like they would be a perfect fit for you on paper and they don't actually work out in person. I've had that happen to me both as like a counselor and as someone who's like seeking a counselor, and it's totally okay if it just doesn't work out. You need to feel safe and comfortable, and you have to have, like, for lack of a better phrase, good vibes with your therapist to make it work. So don't be afraid to, admit that it's not working. I think a lot of people err on the side of like, okay, it's fine, it's okay, like I can make this work, like I can get over this. But if it's not working, that's okay. And like, you're not a bad client, you're not bad at therapy for that. And, you know, just really normalizing that it's okay to take your time in the process. And this is an important relationship in your life, and you need to feel safe with your therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice. And then kind of just segueing from that, obviously with the pandemic, a lot of people's mental health has declined. What advice could you offer for those who are trying to support, you know, their themselves as well as their loved ones right now?
I think a big one is that it's okay that it's scary. I think with a lot of mental health challenges, we end up in a position, especially if we're supporting someone in our family or somebody that we care about that's struggling with their mental health, we're in a position of feeling powerless because there's not always a whole lot that we can do. But sometimes just being that safe person that's there non-judgmentally for somebody to like know that they can access when they need to can be huge. And recognizing that like there are limits to what we can do to support people in their mental health. So like allowing people to just be what they need to be and be in whatever state they need to be is okay. And giving yourself permission for that as well. I think like across the board, it's been a rough year. And especially the last few months, you know, in Victoria especially, it's gray, it's rainy, like we can't see people, we can't access any of the normal ways we would cope through seasonal affective disorder and like depression and stuff like that. And so it's okay that it's hard, and it's okay that it's really challenging, and like it's not a reflection of your worth or the quality of person that you are if you're struggling or struggling to provide support that you were able to provide easily prior to the pandemic hitting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that the MHS does is we have this ongoing series called Selfcare Sundays. So I was just kind of wondering if you wanted to share one or two of your favorite like self-care tips from either just like a personal or professional level.
For sure. So clearly I love plants. One of my favorite ways to kind of take care of myself is to do some taking care of my houseplants. I have quite a few across my apartment. And that's always a really good reminder, like when I'm watering my plants, being like, I haven't drank water for like 6 hours. Maybe I should drink some water today. But outside of that, you know, I try to do regular yoga practice. I try to eat food that makes me feel good. I try to like connect with people in whatever way that looks like, call my mom every day, you know, stuff like that. And having a routine is a huge piece of my self-care just because I thrive in routine. And when I'm not in a structured environment, especially working from home, it's really easy to just like take 2 hours to drink my coffee in the morning and be like, oh, okay, now I need to work and like I'm behind on things. So, you know, just like kind of tuning into like where I'm at is also a really big one. Just recognizing there's going to be days where I'm not going to want to get out of bed and go for like an hour-long hike, and that's okay, even if that's what my plan was. And there's going to be days where like that's all I want to do, and that's great too. And both those days are equally valuable.
Hmm. No, I think that's so great. Yeah, it's definitely been hard with the lack of routine. I'm totally like that as well. Like I love having a routine, planning everything out. So it's been
Mhm,
something to adjust to. Absolutely.
for
Okay,
sure.
so that's pretty much all the questions I've got for you. Did you have anything you wanted to kind of say to wrap up? Anywhere that that like our viewers can find you online or anything like that?
Yeah, so my website is marigoldcounselingbc.com. It has all my contact information on there. You can also reach out to me through my profile on Psychology Today. Please reach out if there's anything that I can do to support you. I'm more than happy if it's, you know, a matter of connecting you to other services and offering community referrals or taking you on as a client in my private practice. I'm really just about trying to get people connected to where they need to be so we can all try and thrive in the less ideal circumstances that we're dealt right now.
That's so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And we'll, of course, have your website linked in the description here. But
Great.
yeah, thank you. This is great.
Thanks for having me.